Hello and welcome to BSB Must Reads, where we share with you all the books you must be reading this month. Today, I have with me the lovely Morgan Lee Miller. How are you, Morgan?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I can't wait to hear all about the Lonely Hearts Rescue.
I know. I'm excited.
One of the super fun things about my job is I can be like, hey, I have this great idea for a book, and you should totally write it. And that's I feel
And
like
you did that.
so I just get to have all these books that I want to read. That other people do the hard work of actually writing. It's perfect.
That's perfect. I wish I had that job.
Totally. So I would love for you to tell readers a little bit more about you and about your story and this collection. And please read for us.
Okay. I'm Morgan Lee Miller. I write contemporary romance for BSB. I have 5 books out. The 6th one's coming out in January. I'm currently working on the 7th. And this is my first anthology. So The Lonely Hearts Rescue is 3 novellas into 1 book, and it all centers around the same animal shelter. So my story is about Reese and Hannah, and they were soccer teammates in high school. And Reese had a big crush on her and admired her from the distance. And now that they're adults, Reese works for an organization that rescues animals. So when a hurricane hit the Gulf, Reese and her work, they went down and they rescued a bunch of animals. And she fostered this tuxedo cat named Apollo. And Hannah kind of pops up and adopts Apollo, and that's how they reunited. And so the scene that I'm going to be reading today, it's from Hannah's point of view, and Hannah has invited Reese over to hang out again. They've hung out a couple times, but she's invited Hannah over to have some wine and see how Apollo is adjusting to his new home. Hannah stole a glance at Reese, watching her smile at Apollo as she stroked his back. For barely knowing much about each other, the silence was comfortable. A kind of peace that didn't need any words, just the sound of Apollo's purrs. Hannah found Reese's brown eyes fastened on her. She felt naked underneath that gaze. Their vulnerability would have kept peeling away if it wasn't for the half grin that landed on Reese's lips. What? Hannah said. Reese's smile grew. Nothing. Tell me. I see a bunch of thoughts behind your eyes. It's embarrassing. Okay, well, now you have to tell me. Okay, I hope it doesn't come off as creepy. The fact that her voice dropped and she kept petting Apollo rather than looking Hannah in the eyes made Hannah more curious about what she was about to reveal. Reese was trying to amp up her intrigue, and she was doing a fabulous job of it. I have thick skin, Hannah said. Lay it on me. Reese blew out a heavy breath and dropped her stare to the wine glass. I've been wanting to tell you this so we can laugh about it for a while. I almost did the last time we hung out. Oh, Reese, I'm dying over here. Just tell me. I had the biggest crush on you in high school. The fluttering Hannah at first felt when Reese had stepped through the door a bit ago resurrected in her gut in a butterfly display of epic proportions. Did she hear Reese correctly? You had a crush on me? I thought you were really cool and always wanted to be around you. You thought I was cool? I thought you were cool and pretty, yes. You know, when we would find each other in the hallways and walk to the fields together after school? Those 5 minutes made my whole day. Pathetic, I know. Hannah flipped through all the memories, searching for something that would have given away Reese's crush. When she came back with nothing, she went through all their encounters since the day she adopted Apollo, so she could overanalyze every look, every word, every smile, and every touch. I had no idea, Hannah said. I hope that's not creepy or anything. Why would it be? The fact that talking to me made your whole day is really sweet, not creepy. It hadn't fully sunk in. She was someone's big high school crush. That was a bold label. But how Reese tripped over her words and the blush that darkened with each word she spoke. Hannah wondered if their reunion had revived it. She hoped it had, because it would confirm what her body had been trying to tell her for the last week. Maybe all those nerves coiling inside of her whenever she was near Reese were just the chemistry fusing them together. I have to ask, how long was this crush? Hannah said, because this is huge news to me. The whole time, all 3 years. Honesty and certainty undid Hannah. The girl she'd been innocently crushing on for the last week had been massively crushing on her in high school. It unlocked so many feelings that she didn't know she had. Reese was beautiful. She possessed the type of confidence Hannah wished she had when the smallest amount was alluring and sexy. Except in that moment, Reese's confidence flickered like a struggling light bulb. When Hannah noticed it fading, she gave Reese's knee a reassuring squeeze. There was a quick tug in her gut. She glanced up to find Reese staring at her delicately, as if worried about what her next words would be. I'm really flattered, Hannah said, and pushed past the tugging inside. High school was a weird time. You defined yourself based on friendships and relationships, and back then, I had watched all my friends go through relationships, and I only had one boyfriend for 2 months. I kind of thought I was very unnoticeable back then. As the silence fell, Reese directed her attention to Apollo. I remember my junior year homecoming. I specifically remember during one of the slow songs. Actually, this is going to be more embarrassing. That made Hannah more excited. Tell me. I remember during one of those slow songs, my friends and I walked off the dance floor, and I had this urge to find out what you were doing. I wanted to know if you found some guy to dance with. I saw you by the beverage stand. I think you were watching everyone else dance, but I was watching you. It was for the first time I'd ever seen you in a dress, and you were very noticeable that night. To me, at least. Always had been. Still are, for the record. The more Reese confessed, the more Hannah's chest inflated from sincere compliments. For a second, Hannah wondered if her own imagination had pieced together Reese's words. A confession Hannah had always wanted to hear someone say to her, a desire that she never knew someone had for her. Why didn't you walk over? I just assumed that you would rather have someone else approach you than me. Plus, there was no way my 16-year-old self would have womaned up and talked to you. Not when you looked that good in a dress. But now I wish I can go back in time and tell you all this so you wouldn't have felt so insecure. You had no reason to be. Hannah blinked several times as she tried to process all the words. Was it just her imagining things, or was there heavy tension vibrating between them? She looked at Reese's lips, scanned every inch of them, and tamed the ravenous reaction bubbling behind her chest. None of this was what she expected when she invited Reese over. And here she was, sipping wine and reeling from Reese's high school emotions and feeling so affected. It should also help your insecurities that Apollo chose you out of all the people who attempted to meet him, Reese said, looking at Apollo, who was zonked down on his back, body twisted like a C, white beard toward the ceiling, and his paws dangling in front of them. Obviously, there's something about you that's alluring to many. The rest of the conversation drifted away from high school, and as easy and enjoyable as the chatting was, Hannah couldn't shake what Reese had told her. It dangled in her mind like a light and flickered any time she started straying away to focus on the current topic, reminding her that this gorgeous woman sitting in front of her had spent 3 teenage years crushing hard on her. When it was time for Reese to head out, she showered Apollo with so many kisses he finally woke up from his deep sleep and hopped off the couch to follow them to the front door. Thank you for inviting me over, Reese said. And thanks again for the wine and company. Good night, Hannah. She gave a small wave and stepped off the patio to the path that led to the driveway. All of her words and compliments tumbled in Hannah's mind like a pile of bricks. No, she couldn't let the air around them surge all night with pockets of palpable tension, just for her doubts and her insecurities to douse the wonderful sparks. The night couldn't end with something as simple and innocent as a wave. Not when she felt anything but for the last 2.5 hours. Hey, Reese. She turned. Yeah. Hannah walked down the steps and sucked in an encouraging breath of September air before she palmed Reese's face and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, thanking her for everything she said and letting her know she was more than just flattered, that she felt it too. Hannah's stomach pleasantly swirled when she felt the lips she'd been admiring all night latch onto hers. As she felt Reese melting into her palms, she pulled away and steadied herself in her wobbly knees. Her lips buzzed against the cool air, wet from Reese's soft, wonderful kiss. She noticed that Reese's eyes were still closed, as if she was savoring the kiss Hannah hoped she thought about countless times before. What was that for? Reese said when she opened her eyes. I wanted you to know what it was like to kiss your high school crush, and to remind you that you shouldn't ever assume someone is straight just because they dated a boy for 2 months in high school. Hannah winked. Reese's shocked expression helped the confidence straighten Hannah's back. Good night, Reese.
Oh, well, that gave me all the feels.
Yeah, it was probably one of my favorite scenes to write, I'm not gonna lie.
I love that. I don't know, for some reason it feels so romantic when someone's been like holding on to that secret for so long and then they finally
I know, I
tell
thought
her
that
and
too.
anyway. Oh, okay. All right. So moving on from my, reaction. Um, so this is a novella in a collection called The Lonely Hearts Rescue. And the Lonely Hearts Rescue is an animal rescue center. And so all the stories in the collection feature animals that are rescued by various people in the town. So this is your first novella. And one of the things that I've learned through kind of managing a few of these over the years is that um, authors either love novellas or hate novellas. And sometimes they're like, I can't believe you asked me to do this novella. It was like, the bane of my existence and so much harder than writing a book. And some of them are like, ask me again. So what was your experience? How was writing kind of a romance arc in the novella format where you don't have as many words?
It was a nice challenge. I tend to be an overwriter, so I'm telling you 85,000 words, and then I give you something that's like 95. Like, I'm so sorry, Sandy. I'm like 10,000 over. I just love writing backstory and, I mean, like useful backstory. But I'm not used to writing 30,000 words, and it was a struggle. I think when I finished my first draft, we were like 3,000 words over. But I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would necessarily want to crank out a novella like every year, but this was a lot of fun to write, and I think it had to do with animals, and it was kind of new territory for me to write something like cute and fun, since I'm like all about the feelings and emotions in my book. But I had a lot of fun, and it was a good exercise to keep everything nice and condensed and only the very important stuff get
Yeah.
into the story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I totally think you pulled it off. It is cute and fun, but I think you kept the emotions in there too.
Yeah, I got some. It's just like not, deep, deep, deep emotions,
Yeah,
but there were some fun emotions.
yeah, they're not super angsty, but
Yeah, no, not angsty at all.
um, so you work with animals in your day job.
I do.
Tell us about that. And did you draw on your own experience when you were writing this one?
Yeah, I drew a lot actually from just my experience working with animals and just adding myself into it. So I work for an animal nonprofit. And so we help animals all over the world. Um, and I'm not the one specifically rescuing them, but I have a lot of coworkers who are in the field who do rescue animals from disasters and other cruelty and neglect. So I already knew some of the stuff that kind of happens when hurricanes happen. And I got to talk to some of my coworkers who run the emergency shelters, which that part appears in my story, like in the first chapter, of just how these groups go in and rescue animals. So that part, I drew a lot of inspiration, and just talking to some awesome coworkers I have who are brave enough to immerse themselves in kind of dangerous situations. So it was really interesting to talk to them. And I was learning some stuff that I didn't even know, like just how like the American Red Cross has now factored in saving animals, because a lot of people won't leave their homes when storms come because they don't want to leave their animals. And so there's like protocol that goes into saving the animals and the people. And that was a whole different thing that I had to learn. It was very interesting. So yeah, Reese is the person who's in the field and getting into the flood water and saving all the animals. And that was definitely based on a bunch of colleagues that I have all over the world who do that.
Sure. That's so cool. Were you like the go-to person for info for the other authors? Were they like always emailing you like what
Yeah.
happens when?
Yeah, Dell in Missouri did. They're like, I have a question about this. And so I'm like, okay, hold on. I'll like email someone in Canada about that. We have a shelter up in Canada. So like they know how to run all these emergency shelters. And everyone was like really excited to answer the questions for me. I'm like, I'm writing a book about animals. And so of course you have the animal people who are all about that. But yes, I was the go-to person and I kind of liked it. It was fun. And again, I learned a lot of new things too that I don't really get to see in my line of work, but yeah, it was fun.
Will we see more animals in your books from now on, now that you've caught the bug?
I think so. I always like these questions have come up on the bookathons about putting animals in stories. And I'm just like, I work with animals. Like you would think that I would have a story, like an animal in every story. And this is my first animal. So, and I have to because Apollo's based on my cat Milo, and Elsa, who I know that you saw her trying to escape while I was reading, at least I did. She's very upset that I didn't add a tabby cat into the book. So I already promised her we're going to write her into a book. So now I have to.
Oh, awesome. Can't wait. Can't
Yeah.
wait. Okay, so let's move to the humans for a minute.
Okay.
I loved that reading. Kind of, Reese revealing that she'd had this crush since high school. And that she's not quite over it, right? That the feelings are still there for Hannah. And then Hannah making the move, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
So what is it that about Hannah that she's never been able to get over? Why is it that she's carried this flame for all these years?
That's a good question. So I forgot to also answer that I put a lot of myself into Reese, and Hannah was kind of inspired, or at least my high school crush inspired Hannah. And I mean, I'm like kind of over her, but it's just not, like not in a bad way, but just it's been like over I don't know, like 15 years. But I feel like there's just something about your high school crush that kind of sticks with you. And I think that's how Reese felt. Like you get to watch, which will again from the distance, but like she was just very aware of Hannah throughout the whole time in high school. And I think there's like something fun with kind of high school crushes or just crushes in general that just stick with you. And yeah, I think that, after high school, it kind of just fizzled. And then when Hannah comes back, it's like, oh, whoa, I forgot all about you, but like all the feelings are there. And I would probably react the same way if I were to run into the high school crush. I would probably just like where I'm like, I'm not thinking about her all the time, but if she were to appear right there, I would not know what to say. So channeled all of myself into Reese and that whole situation.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think, your first crush is a really big deal. It's kind of like
especially like a big crush that carries on throughout high school because you have like a lot of little crushes, but then it's just like that one person who you can't seem to forget about. Just kind of stays with you. And it's just something fun to explore in a story.
For sure, for sure. High school's so intense anyway, right?
It is intense,
growing up
a lot of emotions. And especially I was someone who realized I was queer later on in life. And so when I'm looking back at high school, like everything's clear. Like I didn't know I had a crush on this girl until maybe like 5 years ago. So it's like for me, I'm like rethinking like, oh my gosh, like all these little moments should have been little signs that it was queer. But yeah, so it's fun.
Cool. Awesome. Well, please check out The Lonely Hearts Rescue, written by Morgan Lee Miller, Missouri Vaughn, and Nell Stark. There's the awesome cover.
I love the cover.
It will be out this October on the Bold Strokes website, October 1st, and everywhere else books are sold, October 11th. Check it out.